For almost 2 years, Jude Bellingham conquered world football. He won the Spanish League. He won the Champions League. He dragged England to the final of a European Championship. And he did all of it while hiding a secret injury so painful, he would later call it the worst of his career, a shoulder that kept popping out of its socket. And instead of fixing it, he chose to play through the pain. November 2023, Real Madrid are playing a fairly ordinary league match, and Jude Bellingham, just 20 years old and already the most talked about young player on the planet, injures his left shoulder. Now, most players get this looked at, and if it's serious enough, they have surgery and they stop for a while. Bellingham does the opposite. He decides to keep playing with a shoulder that from that point on can dislocate at almost any moment, and he doesn't play through it for a game or a month. He plays through it in agony, on and off, for nearly 2 years, carrying a body that could give way at any second at the very top of the sport. So here is the question. Why would the most hyped young footballer in the world risk his body like that? And what does that kind of relentless pressure actually do to a 20-year-old kid? To understand it, you have to look at where Jude Bellingham comes from and at the family that built him and gave up almost everything for him. Jude Bellingham was born in 2003 in a small town in England, and his story doesn't start with money or privilege. His father, Mark, was a police sergeant, a serving officer who was also, on the side, a legend of English non-league football, a striker said to have scored something like 700 goals. His mother, Denise, held the family together. Keep that family in mind, because they are quietly the real foundation of everything Jude becomes. Jude was a prodigy from the very start. He broke into his boyhood club, Birmingham City, at just 16. And when he left, barely a year later, the club did something almost unheard of for a 17-year-old. They retired his shirt number, as if to say there will never be another like him. And he was only getting started. If you like the stories behind the legends, take a second to subscribe and let's keep going. At 17, he moved to Germany, to Borussia Dortmund, and his mother, Denise, moved with him to a foreign country so that this teenager wouldn't be alone. There, he grew into one of the best young midfielders in the world. And then, at just 20, came the move that put a crown on his head. Real Madrid, the biggest club on earth, for a fee north of 100 million. He didn't just fit in, he exploded. Goals, big moments, that now famous celebration with his arms flung wide. He helped Madrid win the Spanish League and the Champions League in his very first season. To some, he looked cocky, arrogant, too sure of himself, and plenty of people said so. But behind the swagger was a young man handling a level of fame and expectation that would flatten most adults and, as we now know, doing it in physical pain. And then came the summer of 2024, and the moment that turned him from a star into a national hero. The European Championship, England against Slovakia. England are losing, playing badly, seconds from being knocked out and sent home in humiliation. And in the 95th minute, Jude Bellingham launches himself into the air and scores an overhead bicycle kick, one of the most dramatic clutch goals in England's history. He rescues the entire Nations tournament in a single instant. He later admitted that for a moment, he felt like Cristiano Ronaldo. England go on to reach the final. What almost nobody watching realised was that he was doing all of this, the heroics, the whole tournament with that damaged shoulder, having once again chosen not to have surgery so that he wouldn't miss it, because that's the part the highlight reels skip. From that injury in late 2023, Bellingham kept putting off the operation again and again for the biggest reason there is in sport. He didn't want to miss anything. He didn't want to miss the run to a La Liga title. He didn't want to miss the Champions League. He didn't want to miss a Euros with England. So he played on with a shoulder that could dislocate, managing the pain, strapping it up, going back out. It was only in the summer of 2025 that he finally had surgery to fix what had become a recurring dislocation. And he admitted afterwards that he regretted waiting so long and that it had been the most painful injury of his life. For a year and a half, he had traded his own body for trophies and history and paid for it quietly every single week while the world just saw a kid who seemed to have everything and no reason to hurt. And here's where his family comes back into it, because Jude didn't carry all of this alone. His parents, Mark and Denise, essentially rebuilt their entire lives around their sons' careers. His younger brother, Job, is a professional too. When Jude went to Spain and Job went elsewhere, the parents literally split up geographically to be near each of them, one following one son, one following the other, across countries, so that neither boy would ever be on his own. Jude has grown up inside a fiercely protective family bubble, and that's a huge part of why, so far, he hasn't crumbled under a weight that has broken so many gifted young players before him. Behind the confident superstar is a kid whose mum and dad quite literally moved their whole world to hold him up. Because make no mistake, the weight on him is enormous. England hasn't won a major trophy in generations, and a whole country has decided that this young man is the one who will finally end that weight. Every match, every tournament, millions of people pour their hopes onto his shoulders, the same shoulders that were literally coming apart. Add the club pressure at Real Madrid, the constant scrutiny, the pylons whenever his fierce on-field emotions boil over, and you have a level of pressure very few humans ever experience landing on someone barely out of his teens. We have seen over and over what that can do to a young prodigy. The question hanging over Jude Bellingham isn't whether he's talented, it's whether anyone can carry all of that for a whole career and come out the other side whole. So here is the real story of Jude Bellingham, the one behind the arms wide celebration. Remember how we started, a young man winning everything while his shoulder fell apart. The easy version of him is the cocky wonder kid who has it all. The truth is harder and better. He is a policeman's son who was built, protected, and carried by a family that gave up their own lives for him and who, when it mattered, chose to grit through real pain and the hopes of an entire nation rather than step aside. His greatness at 23 isn't just talent, it's a refusal to stop. And his story isn't a fairy tale yet, and it isn't a cautionary tale either, it's still being written. That's exactly what makes him the most fascinating young player in the world. We are all watching in real time to see whether the boy can carry everything that's been placed on him without it ever breaking him. So future greatest of all time, or a kid carrying too much, too young? Tell me in the comments. And subscribe, because next time we go behind the curtain on another legend the world only thinks it knows.